All right, welcome everybody out to Planning Commission for June 12th, 2024. We have 5 commissioners present, 2 that are excused, and I've asked Commissioner Gregory to give communication.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you that we're able to gather today to discuss the items on the agenda. Please bless that you will be able to all make it home safely when the time comes, and say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the consent agenda from our previous meeting, which was a month ago. Is there any discussion on the from our previous meeting?
I saw no issues.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Adams. All in favor by yes?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next one is public forum. So this is if there's something that's not on the agenda. If you need an agenda, they are in the back pockets there. If you're here for an agenda item, we'll get to those in a minute. But if there's something you'd like to discuss that's not on the agenda, you're welcome to step up to the microphone and discuss that this time. Okay. Seeing no public comment, we will move on to our review items. So the first item is 5.1. This is a request by Jarrett White to apply the RMO two-family residential overlay. The parcel is that is the Utah County parcel right on that, approximately 295 North 300 East. And then just for my information, we need to do some 2 separate motions. Right?
Yeah, so introduce both items and then
2 separate motions for it. We'll cover both 5.1, 5.2. We'll have 2 motions on those. And then the next one is to also not only do the RMO, but also do the infill overlay for that same parcel and to allow for some additional development. Michael has our presentation.
Thank you, commissioners. Let me pull this up in the presentation format for you. So as was stated, the property located at 295 North 300 East is requesting these 2 overlay designations. This is the beautiful site of what it used to look like. I know we'll all be sad if that were to be permanently gone. But if you can't tell, the site was previously used illegally as a business for semi trucks and storage and outside refuse, things like that. So that property has since been sold, and the new owner would like to do some significant changes. First of all, the owner requests the RMO overlay so that he can subdivide the property and put twin homes on there. So he would put 2 twin home units on the west side here, and then leave the existing home on the east side here. This is a sample of a layout for what twin homes conceptually would look like. Since the property is the way it is, he would need to have the infill overlay for this lot here would need to have the overlay for it to be reduced. The minimum lot size for the overlay is 4,500 square feet, and this would be, I believe it's 4,350, 4,380, something like that. So it's just a small reduction. And then also that same lot and the adjoining lot, they only have a setback, rear setback of just under 20 feet, and the code requires 25. And then likewise, the existing home only has, I can't read that from here, but I believe it was
10.32
feet. And so, again, the code is 25. As you can see on the existing home, there is a lot of large area for yard space and whatnot. It's a technicality in a sense that this is the rear yard because it's addressed from this side here. So in a sense, it could be a side yard just as easily as it could be a rear yard. It's just the front of the home is facing 400 East.
Put a on that.
The footage,
On the back,
yeah, this is 10 right here.
so it don't get 12. like, side yard.
The minimum for a side yard is 8. It would be 12 if it's for a driveway going back to a garage or something like that. So those are the two overlay requests that the applicant is requesting for this. If approved, then he proposes to put that 3-lot subdivision on there, of which 2 of the lots would be the twin home units. Staff recommends approval for these overlay changes. We feel as if it would be significantly better than what was there and what is existing there. We also feel as if it's a single family home and twin home is much more conducive to what has been there. And also the applicant would install the curb gutter sidewalk along the entirety of this property if approved and the subdivision is put in.
Is that all 3 sides?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions?
Would the twin home be rental or purchase? Or what?
It's intended to be separate lots so that they could be purchased, but as far as being rental or not, that would be up to the,
I just want to make sure that it was
yeah.
intended to be.
Yeah, it
could
would
be
not,
purchased.
it would not be a duplex. It would be twin homes, so they could be separate ownerships. Yep, there would be a lot line dividing them, so. Any other questions?
Glad to see the former use gone. That's been a problem for a long time. I'm sure the neighbors came over and had quite a discussion, right?
Multiple. It's been fun.
Do we want to get the applicant want to say?
If they'd like to share something, sure.
Just add something. Just make sure you give us your name, please.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Jared White. Can I go back to one slide here? Okay, so one thing I just wanted to clarify with the back side yard of that existing property. The back door on the home actually comes out the south side anyways. So as you walk out the back door, you're walking out to that large yard.
Large area.
Yes.
Right.
And
So
so
there's no
really,
entrance on that back side,
Sorry?
on the west side.
say that one more
There's
time.
no entrance on the west side.
No, the back door sits right in this corner on that south face. And so the backyard, as you walk out, like was said, it's kind of a technicality of what's considered the backyard. At one point, we talked about readdressing and trying to move the front door from this side to this side to make it work. But in this north, what corner is that? East? Northeast corner, there's a bedroom and the front room actually sits on the southeast side. So we weren't able to move the door to that north face to readdress it correctly. Otherwise, we would have been willing to, but it requires a whole layout change of the whole house itself, right? So that kind of, I think, especially me looking at it as like a home buyer with my back door facing that, even though it's technically the side of the house, the back door walks out to a backyard. It's pretty spacious, definitely helps. And then, like you'd mentioned, just over on this block on the other side of the street, there's some really nice twin homes that almost look identical to what we'd like to put there. And I think it looks really clean. They've been there for about, I think, 10 years now, and they're still really well maintained. They look really, really nice. Definitely brings like, compared to what it was, a lot of I don't know what the right word is, value to the neighborhood. Yeah. So. Yep.
Okay, so this is a public hearing, and we do both public hearings separate motion, so we need to open a public hearing for item 5.1.
So moved.
The motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Beecher, all in favor by yes?
Yes.
Okay, so item 5.1 is the RMO overlay. If you would like to discuss, you're welcome to discuss both items during this part, but if anybody here would like to discuss our RMO overlay, go up and step up to the microphone and share your thoughts. Seeing
I don't see
no
anybody
public
online.
comment, we will take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Warner, and all in favor by yes?
Yes.
And then we need to open a public hearing on item 5.2.
Actually, finish this one out.
Thank you.
We need to actually.
So
do the, you know.
is there any
So-
commission discussion on this?
One more comment I would make. The RMO will not work without the infill overlay because of these setbacks.
They're tied
So-
to each other.
So yes, I would recommend, while you have to do separate motions, perhaps you do your motions for
Contingent
both.
upon.
Yes, or contingent.
Okay. And commission discussion? Seems, makes sense to me. I don't see any issues with it.
I don't either, maybe, I mean, this kind of applies to both motions, but just a couple of observations that are really looking down the road a little bit beyond what we're doing here tonight, but, just looking at the footprint as diagrammed, it's a little difficult sometimes to look at the scale of the drawing and get a feel for how much room is around the perimeter of the building, but it looks a little bit on the small side. I just hope there's enough outdoor room that the families have got something there to enjoy. The other thing, that, and this is one of my biases, we've talked about it here in the planning commission over the years. The picture of the example of the style of the home was a garage forward design. And we have a preference for porch forward. So if that's an option for you to consider down the road, we would like to see that, that kind of a thing. It's not required in the code or anything like that, but it is a preference that we have.
Porch for why was that?
Instead of seeing a great big garage door,
Set
the
garage
first
back,
thing
so the, yeah.
you see the front of the house. It's more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, I can see that, but on something like this here where you've got, that's the center point. I mean, if you put the garages on the outside, then I can see that would work with garage.
You don't
doors.
consider it on the outside, just pull them back and put the porches.
Well, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, if the garages were on the outside, then you bring it out. That's kind of what I look at, but I just,
I've seen them both ways.
yeah, that's, so I,
With the garages in the middle, pulled back, or the garages in the middle, pulled forward. I like Commissioner Warner, I personally like the others better.
As you drive down the street, if you have a series of homes with the garage forward, all you see is garage doors down the street there. It just looks better to have the other.
But it may not be possible in this.
like, I'm just looking at the aesthetics of the way this is set up, this looks more appealing to this house, or we went home versus bringing the porch all the way out on it. I mean, this, that's my opinion.
I think maybe just to build on that a little bit more, because I appreciate those comments. When we talk about porch forward and things like that, really what we're trying to do is create a better connection from the front door to the pedestrian space of the street, right? So as you're walking down the street, the predominant part of this home becomes where the people live, not necessarily where the cars get parked, or the cars are on the driveway and there's junk inside the garage, right? So it just creates that idea of a neighborhood in an interaction in the neighborhood, rather than you just drive in your garage, enter your house from that way, and you never ever have any interaction. Me personally, I love to see connection directly from the front door to the sidewalk. You know, lots of times we just use the driveway as our connection, but that automatically defers to the vehicular mode of connection to your neighborhood. Even just the simple idea of putting a simple sidewalk that connects directly to the sidewalk of the pedestrian space changes the whole look and feel of your home. So I really appreciate those comments. Thanks.
So how much of an offset is on your front porches on this? I mean, that's something you really can't see from this point.
So it's difficult to see. It took a couple double takes on my computer, but it is set back. I think this is about 30 feet.
Yeah, so
From
the
the-
driveway is
So
30
the
feet.
driveway is 30 feet from the back of the proposed sidewalk.
Okay, now that's, you're talking on, that's on that existing home.
Or no?
No,
this
proposed.
These are the twin homes proposed. The existing home is this one.
Oh, okay, that's,
Yep.
that's what,
And then how far back is the porch from the garage? Curiosity. So is it?
I don't know if it actually, I don't know if I can even read that there.
I mean, it's not huge.
that's what I mean, I'm talking about the front of the garage to the porch. That's what I'm
No,
curious.
from the front of the garage to the-
Out a little bit
From the
more.
front of the garage to the door, it's probably about 20 feet.
Oh, because the door is clear back here, that's right.
That's the other thing, is that it creates kind of this canyon effect. And it doesn't really create a situation that you want to be out there or go up to the door, because so just things to keep in mind. Yeah, I always think about sending my kids trick-or-treating, and I don't like to send them to the canyon doors because I have no idea what's going on, right? But when it's out in front, then you can actually see that interaction and that connectivity between the sidewalk and the house. So.
Any other discussion? Anybody prepared to make a motion on item 5.1?
Move to recommend approval of item 5.1 contingent upon the approval also of the infill overlay.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. All in favor by yes?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, and then now we need to have a public hearing on item 5.2 for the infill overlay zone.
Move to open public hearing.
Motion by second.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Warner, all in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Anybody wants to discuss item 5.2, which is the infill overlay, which would allow these reduced setbacks, very marginal reduced setbacks. Welcome to step up the microphone.
I just think this is a good thing to have happen in that neighborhood.
So,
Absolutely. This was,
Counselor.
this was a problem
So,
area.
seeing no public comment, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion, second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker, all in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And any other commission discussion on item 5.2?
Good use of the property. We're glad you purchased it.
We take a motion for 5.2.
I move that we approve the IO infill overlay necessary for the reduced size or lot size for the one lot, and then the reduced setbacks in a couple of locations, and recommend approval to the city council.
Okay, have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Warner, all in favor by yes?
Yes.
And any opposed? Okay, so that will move on to the city council. Be nice to get cleaned up.
Just sidebar. So this is probably one of the greatest examples of why we have these overlays, and probably one of the greatest ways that they work. So I just want to commend you all, because you all put these things in place before either of us were here. And this is a great way that it actually brings new life to an existing neighborhood and provides additional housing opportunities in an additional neighborhood. And I'm going to use this in my moderate income housing report. So thanks.
Yes, please do. Our report's almost due again, isn't it?
It's always almost due.
Okay, we're gonna move on to item 5.3. This is amendments to the Title 13
So,
ordinances.
This
for
will go to
appendix A land use
This will go to
categories.
city council,
You have this presentation as well, Mike?
either
I
the
do.
3rd or the
So you
17th.
should have in your packet, the appendix
It might even
A.
be on
I
for
will
next
pull it
week.
up here on the screen though.
You don't have to stay if you don't.
Hopefully that can be read. Maybe, is that legible to everyone? So this was initiated by an applicant that wanted to request for an additional permitted use in a zone, and staff felt as if we should start looking at the entirety of this appendix. So with this, we had looked at about, I think this is about 15 pages. We've looked at about the first 5 or 6. And so we're bringing those to you at this time for your consideration. If you can read that, I'm not going to read each and every one of these to you unless you want to discuss them. So we'll just kind of scroll through. You can see anything in green is something that we added. Anything in red is actually a strike through to potentially remove that item or that language in this appendix.
That's the remove zoos out of the equations.
Thanks, guys. We'll discuss. We'll cross that bridge when it comes.
I'm pretty sure we'll be.
You can see, for example, some things we kind of thought should be added entirely. For example, golf driving range is indoor, more or less a glorified arcade for golfers, right? Some things we felt as if should
If
change.
Top Golf wants to come,
Yep.
we will make that
If
happen.
an indoor Top Golf, but we have the other one already there. So for example, here, apparel and textiles, the textile was not there. It just said apparel manufacturing, and we felt as if it was more inclusive to put textile. And then with that, a few things were changed there. Are we missing something on that?
So which one of you are planning on the distillery?
It depends on how tonight goes.
We felt as if a lot of this language we felt was redundant, and so we figured we might as well take it out, and we can be more general when the type of use comes in. Therefore, for example, all-purpose textile manufacturing, I don't think we need to care too much of whether it's curtains and draperies.
I mean, essentially what we're doing is trying to modernize a very antiquated document, right?
This document's really old.
Another one comes into play down here, clothing, accessories, and specialties not sexually oriented. Well, we felt as if clothing and apparel is all of this, and we have sexually oriented items here, so we didn't feel as if we needed to have them both. And then as you can see, it's permitted in all the zones, or this is removed from that. We also felt as if shoes and footwear also fit into the same category as clothing and apparel. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about going over all of them.
Some additional language there. This one at the bottom here, gas station without convenience store. We added that one with the idea in mind that places like Sam's Club and Costco and stuff like that, they don't have the convenience store. And so that's why our logic was it could go in the light industrial zone as is, or it could be an accessory use if there was some sort of business such as Costco or Sam's Club there. It could be an accessory use.
Does that cover Walmart's gas station too?
And they have a convenience
Yeah.
store.
But any type of business of that nature, if it's with an accessory use, we felt as if it would be appropriate in those zones.
But it would allow a state fueling station to go in. And
So the state fueling station, we felt as if it would be appropriate in the light industrial zone, not necessarily in our prime commercial real estate areas.
I guess you could attach it to a state liquor store.
Oh, boy. Strike that from the record.
Fueling station and liquor store together.
Perfect combination.
One-stop shop.
Do you have anything on electrical charging stations for automobiles?
As far as where they're permitted,
They're permitted?
I don't think we do. Does that?
Probably not. I don't remember anything.
But that might be something to actually.
Round
consider.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good. That's a
comment.
good point.
Walmart Spanish got a charging station.
I don't think it comes from charging stations in there.
They typically do.
Well, actually, Actually, we could just, as part of your recommendation, if you wanted, you could say, add, instead of gas stations with convenience store, and charging stations.
Refueling charging station.
Yeah. Or we could change gas station to refueling, and that would cover it.
Fuel stations.
Fuel stations. If that, I would definitely support that. And then, because this still has to go to the city council, and so that would just be part of the recommendation. It's a good suggestion.
You can see here, we added hardware stores in the light industrial zone. Hardware stores less than 10,000 square feet, we put it in, I believe that's the central commercial zone. I put this at the top of everyone, so yeah, so central commercial zone. If any of you have scrolled through this document, it needs to freeze that very top row so you know which zone it is. But anyway.
It doesn't do it very well.
And that's why I manually put it in on the top of these sheets. Some of these things are just kind of no-brainer. You can see here, if you agree, then by all means, we'd love that recommendation from you. You can see again, as the construction-related type of activities in the heavy industrial zone. Some of them we felt as if weren't necessarily appropriate. As you can see coming down here in the business services in the light industrial zone, we didn't think that these things were most conducive there. We felt as if it should be things that were light manufacturing, things of that nature, not necessarily, for example, advertising agencies, which is probably primarily office space. I'm going to scroll through this unless you have questions, okay? I'll just kind of go relatively slow. Hopefully you've looked at the packet to see all of these.
Uber one up by getting rid of personal transportation services and just not allowing it anywhere.
That was an interesting conversation. You can see the chemicals here. We thought that was kind of strange that the chemical manufacturing weren't allowed in the highest dense industrial zone, so we figured that would be appropriate. Construction contractors, if it's just their office, we thought, why is that allowed in the I2 zone, which is our most
Why take up
intensive industrial zone?
Just an office.
Yeah.
Which are we gonna clarify I1 and I2, because that's the discussion we've had, is we have lots of purple industrial that we would need there.
So
Yeah.
for future land use, no, but our zoning map does do that.
But yeah,
Future land use kind of couples it all into, is it industrial use or is it something
Even on
else?
the future land use. And
Yeah.
that would say, hey, this is what we're really anticipating I1 versus I2, just so that we don't run into somebody coming in and saying, hey, we want to put an I2 here. 'cause it's
exactly.
supposed to
And
be
that's kind of the conversation that we've been having intermittently and need to bring back and get our crayons out.
Roofing services, it was conditional in, I want to say that's the general commercial zone. And we felt as if they're a construction related roofing service, that doesn't really make sense in the general commercial zone. Continuing on. There's the zoos. Sorry.
No zoo.
wasn't permitted anywhere, it was just on the list, so.
This one with the microbreweries, the logic behind this was oftentimes restaurants want to or do have microbreweries. And that's why our logic was to make these accessory uses with the intent that they would be coupled with a restaurant, for example.
So you're saying they could go into light industrial?
So that's, yes, that's further down. We actually included that as a separate line item as a manufacturing, a food manufacturing item in the industrial zones, yes.
Where he was looking at was under restaurants.
Well, okay, well, that's why I'm trying to clarify that, because I could say Pleasant Grove's got one.
Yeah.
Light industrial area.
And there you go, right there.
Okay, I just asked permitted use, not.
Yep, it's permitted use in those two zones is what we did.
And in this case, it's like a standalone
Right.
use.
That's all they do.
That's all they do.
So this suggests that they would, if they wanted a retail outlet, it would have to be somewhere outside the industrial zone. Is that right?
Well, they could probably have some retail. We would allow retail sales there, but the actual manufacturing of it would only be permitted there if it was a strap tank. It would be an accessory use in the commercial zone as part of the restaurant.
I mean, I suppose it doesn't need to be a restaurant. It could be a commercial business that sells brewed alcohol beverages, things like that. But most commonly, microbreweries in commercial zones are in a restaurant. I think there's a few more pages here to go through that we actually made comments on.
Yeah, I don't think we
I'm
got
not
this
seeing-
far.
There is one that I don't know that we talked about, but it was the nature of the applicant that requested was to request as a permitted use gunsmithing in the central commercial zone. And staff talked about that. We felt as if that was not any significant concern. We talked about it with the police department. We talked about it with the fire department. It's also traditionally been done in, I think, prior to where Walgreens was, it was done there. So we didn't feel as if that was a significant concern. But yes, it looks as if that is the gist of the proposed changes. So any comments? We'll come back with the others later, and we can definitely add some of these suggestions from here before we go to council. So
Can you scroll back to recreational for just a minute? I want to see what's there.
is this the one you meant?
Yes. I just went on a family vacation out of state and ran on to a business there that I had not been aware of. It's called Billy B's. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I guess it's a chain. I don't know, but it was done in a warehouse-like setting or strip mall type setting. It's a place for little children to go play. There's slides, there's ladders, there's all kinds of crawl in through activities like that. Did we permit that?
Was it inside?
It was indoor.
So we would probably call it indoor amusement.
Or this recreation center
Or-
athletic club?
Yeah. So yeah, however we needed to fit that, we could.
That was kind of cool.
I
Kids
think
had a good time, huh?
We had a good time.
I think another thing,
You know?
yeah, I mean, another consideration of something like that is like the trampoline parks and stuff like that.
Any other comments?
Okay, so this is a public hearing, so we need to open a public hearing on item 5.3.
So move.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Beecher, all in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, if there's anybody who would like to talk to us about these proposed changes to Title 13, start with the microphone. Share your thoughts.
Close the hearing.
Seeing none, I have a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Warner, all in favor by yes?
Yes.
Commission discussion, any further questions that we didn't cover kind of during the presentation?
I think with the recommendation to change fueling stations or add EV to the fueling
For
stations.
clarification, it might be better to put EV charging stations, just because if people see fueling, they probably still aren't thinking electrical. That's just me.
My only concern with that one.
Because when we go hydrogen, then you know.
Well, fueling I think is fine, but then I know that we're planning on adding EV stations and lots of times they're associated with like a business or something like that, right? So I just I don't want to prohibit something that it is very easy to allow. that
So
makes
it's better
sense.
to have a separate item and have that
So-
accessory use.
So
plus-
maybe rather than providing further clarification at this time, what we have been doing and would continue doing is just having those as accessory uses in those areas. So,
So having those separate items and then just allow this accessory use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is fine.
Yep.
But we do need to have something in.
yeah, so
On electrical charges.
we can provide that as give us the direction before council to address EV stations, and we can put that in.
I was addressing the- finish the extra 9
Yeah. And it might just be adding a line item that says EV charging stations and putting it as accessory uses in all.
And everywhere.
That'd be,
That could be
pretty
good.
simple.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? Ready to make a motion?
I move that we recommend approval of the changes as outlined with the addition that staff reviews possibly adding EV as an accessory use in all zones.
Have a motion, we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Becker, all in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes, any opposed? Okay, we'll move on to city council. And the last one is item 5.4. This is a request by Chris Wall to amend the zoning designation for Utah County parcel 0023 at 2900 West, 790 South, of the A5H with 3 different zoning designations. Michael has our presentation there as well.
So to give you some orientation, this on the north is 790. And I believe this is 2900 West.
Or 5600 West in the county coordinate.
And so it would be the entirety of this lot, not including this home here. The entirety of this is what the request is for.
Sorry, just to add a little bit more. This is at the very southwest corner of our currently annexed property. So this is within the city. Yeah, just barely.
So a couple things to note. This property is part of the Spring Creek specific area plan that was just adopted in December. The specific area plan talks about the future land use for this area. And it has these 3 designations for the area, and I'll show you the map in a moment. And so the intent of this request is more or less a 2-phase development approach. So let me show you that map. So the area in blue down here is where this property is located. And as you can see, there's 3 colors on the map. The bright yellow is this low density residential, which is up to 4 units per acre. The lighter yellow is light or large lot residential, which is up to 2 units per acre. And then the light green at the bottom is rural residential up to 1 unit per acre. That's how the specific Spring Creek plan identifies the area. So phase 1 of this project is that the applicant is seeking to subdivide these 100 acres into 19 lots that are 5¼ acre each. With that, the applicant is requesting these 3 zone designations on these various lots. So lots 1 through 11, which go from here across, he's requesting the R110 zone, which matches similarly to the previous slide that we were showing of the low density residential up to 4 units to the acre. And then likewise, lots 12 through 15 are on this side here, and that's where he's proposing, 12 through 15 is on this side, and that's where he's proposing the 1 acre lots. Again, going back to the specific plan, in this vicinity is intended to potentially be 1 acre lots at the max. And then lots 16 through 19, which are here, he's requesting the R120 zone, which is 20,000 square foot lots. And again, matches similarly to the plan. Any questions on this before we continue?
I mean, I know this is a long way out, but are they being very conscious where they're placing the homes on these 5 acre lots? Because then you're looking at.
We'll get to that.
Future development, it's like.
Yep, we'll get to that.
So everything in there is 5.25?
Yes, so you can see these long strips. These are the lots, and every one of them is a minimum of 5 1/4.
Then you're saying,
And that's so that they can preserve the greenbelt status.
the R1A, now that's a 1 acre lot? You're saying-
Minimum.
The
Minimum.
zoning would be, yes.
The lot will still be 5
This-
acre, but
the-
these zones, so it could become 1 acre lots.
Okay,
eventually.
that's why.
Yep.
That's why it got me, you know, I'm seeing 5 1/4, then I'm seeing this is correct.
Yeah, each zone designation, this is the minimum lot size on each of those. And so it'd still be okay to be much larger lots and still would work in that regard. Nobody ever really wants to do that most of the time because they want to cram as many lots as possible for the zoning. So phase 2 of this proposal would not be realized until utility infrastructure is financially reasonable to be brought to the area. Right now, there is no city utilities out there. Is there power out there actually?
Not city power.
Not city, so it's SESD power out there. So there is no city facilities out there.
Would we have to run power?
And that would have to happen now.
That would have to,
Right.
Yeah.
That would have to be brought. They would have to pay the exit fee or whatever it's called with SESD, and then they would have to pay for the line to be brought there. Correct.
That's correct.
To your point, Commissioner Frisbee, we recommend that a development agreement be made with the city council that would identify closely with the future land use map in the Spring Creek specific area plan. And then therefore, development may occur in the manner that the plan is proposing. With that, there's some things that we would recommend being put into a development agreement. So some of those recommendations are as follows. If the city council approves the zone change, then staff recommends that they do the following to help realize the future land use of the Spring Creek specific area plan. The development agreement, as I said, we would restrict where the homes may be built on these 5 1/4 acre lots. That could potentially be done, as you saw in your staff reports, with building lot footprints, various setbacks, things like that. But also we would require that right-of-way easements be granted to the city upon recording of the subdivision that would put the primary infrastructure for roads and utilities and the like to go in there if and when it develops in the future. And then also in the development agreement, we would identify some sort of a timing or some sort of a timing trigger that would require those improvements to be brought to the property and then installed with city standards. So,
Can I take a moment?
sure.
Before we get to our recommendation, I just want to mention a couple things. So this is a really interesting proposal, and as staff, we have mulled this over many times, and it's a bit of a two-edged sword, and we understand that. We understand the request of the applicant to develop this as large lots at this time. That's not consistent with the Spring Creek plan, and that's why we have suggested that if it is going to something that's going to move forward, that the zoning be consistent with the Spring Creek plan so it can be realized as a phased approach. the question about utilities is one that all of us can understand. Utilities are very expensive, and to extend them, just some rough numbers. I mean, I think bringing water to the property is, probably well in excess of $2 million. Bringing sewer is in much greater numbers than that. The applicant would be obviously required, like we said, to bring power to the site. And so we wanted to create a method that if the planning commission and ultimately the city council felt like this was something that would be good for our city for this type of development, and we can see where that would be a good thing. If they wanted to move forward with something like this, a development agreement would need to be worked out and agreed upon prior to the city council approving this. We're okay moving forward with developing that and working with the applicant. If the planning commission recommends that this move on and that the city council pursue this, then in that interim between it being with you tonight and then going to the city council, that's when we would begin working with the applicant on the specifics of those development requirements in that agreement. But like Michael had suggested, the location of the houses now is very, very important. The easements for future roads is very, very important. And also the necessity of bringing utilities and when that would occur and connection is also very important. And so that would be an interesting development agreement. And we can see how that could move forward. We also see that timeliness is the big question here. And so we can see either side of this, but we just wanted to provide a way that if this is something that we want to move forward with, that we are very well prepared for how it would develop into the future. Not just the 5 1/4 acre lots now, but how it would move on into the future. Our understanding is that the applicant, and I believe that the applicant is online and can probably speak to this, but our understanding is that the investigation regarding wells has taken place and that permits for wells would be possible. Initially, septic systems would be the way that sewer would be dealt with, but upon the additional utilities becoming closer, connection would be required, and those are some of the things that we work out in the development agreement. So.
Important parts of this is it sort of sets a precedent for other areas nearby as they will come into that. This development agreement is laying sort of a framework for those.
And that is a really, really good point, that this is not something that we normally do. Normally we say that all utilities have to be at the time of development, right? This provides a vehicle if we want to use it.
So then, question on utilities. I mean, it doesn't make an impact, I guess, with the project, but is it possible to do like a single well and do all the lots, or do they all have to have their own individual wells? That septic would probably be impossible to do a central system, but
they would likely all need to be on individuals.
Okay.
That's correct, right, Jonathan?
Yeah, because if you get too many connections, you become a water system,
Okay.
and then you're
That's regulated.
bound by a lot of other.
Okay, I mean, it's not totally relevant whether they decide to punch 20 holes in the ground or one, but I was kind of wondering about that. But the septic would be, you got way too much to run to try to central system now.
Correct.
Even coming in with this 19 lots here, don't the roads, the 3 roads that front it right now, wouldn't they have to be dedicated to the city?
The frontage, you
The
mean?
frontage.
And
And doesn't that take away from the 5 1/4 and make it less than 5 1/4?
So I think what the plan would be is that they would dedicate an easement, and so that way they still have the property, they just wouldn't be able to put things on it. That makes sense. And then at future development, that easement would therefore need to become a dedication.
We're not getting curb and gutter right now.
Not anytime soon out there. It doesn't make much sense
It
either.
would really be beneficial.
I'm just, you write that into an agreement and then you make them do whatever you gotta do for it, and it never happens.
Let me also talk about another scenario that we've discussed and had thoughts about. This property could disconnect from the city, right? Because this is typical county development, and they could disconnect. That one is a double-edged sword as well. They could go ahead and move forward and do those things. But we would anticipate that one day this property would come into our city. By doing it this way, we actually have some say in how it develops, where those road connections would be, when connection to utilities would occur, all of those types of things, as well as get the power out there. So at least one utility would start. If it develops in the county, we have no say.
We have no
that.
say in it.
Until annexation, then we have the annexation.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, so they would need to go through the annexation process again, and we have that stick again. But then we would be dealing with 19 houses that are.
Property, house placement, everything else makes it a lot
So
harder to.
you can see our dilemma in dealing with
So would
this.
the interior roads be dedicated as easements right now as well,
Yes.
as part of this plat?
So how would that affect them as property owners?
So you just can't build on those.
It just,
Well, I mean, that section, yes, I understand. But,
Typically wouldn't buy it because when it develops, then the easement becomes a dictate to the city, so the city doesn't have to buy it because the future developer has to give that to the city.
You have to dedicate it to the
As
city.
part of the development.
So this map is difficult to see, but in your staff reports, you probably saw it, but there is a line right here, if my hand wasn't so
Here, I can
wobbly.
get it.
But there is
So
a
right
line
here,
there. There's
right
one
here.
right there.
Right here.
Those are all, for example, proposed right-of-way dedications for future roads that they would be.
so it's not to go through the middle of all, what I'm saying, that's.
Right, well, that would be local roads once further development were to happen, but at least we would create additional transportation network in this large 100-acre parcel.
2900 west, 5600. Isn't it a major?
Technically, I think it's a state highway.
2400.
I think it's technically a state route.
Yeah, but it's
600 west.
quite a bit wider way.
Yeah, it's a UDOT arterial road. So the dedication might even be, the requirement of easement might be even more than this. But again, that facility as a UDOT facility could develop at any time, but for the time being, the density doesn't necessarily necessitate it, right? What I also wanted to say as part of that development agreement, a plot plan of where the homes could be developed would also help us in planning for the future further subdivision of this property, because those properties along the top 1 through, is that 11. So those are obviously going to divide much more significantly than the remaining ones, right? And so understanding the placement of those houses is going to be really important as we move into the future.
Quite a bit, I mean, depending on what you're going.
What through 11, if we were to approve this zone, there 10,000 square foot lot.
So you put 4 acre easement in there. So if that's a 5-acre lot, you put 20 houses per each of those lots, roughly. Right.
That's it. Robert basically went over the recommendation.
Sorry.
So I'm good because then I don't have to talk as much. So any further questions?
Other questions?
When you're talking about power, I mean, there's already strawberry out there. You're talking, are you making them
Any
power in first, or you let them?
Any development in Payson City is required to connect to Payson Power if they are not. And so they would have to pay an exit fee to SESD and then bring the infrastructure to the area and use Payson power.
Power is a non-negotiable.
That's actually written in the contract with SESD.
Mhm. Yeah, there are existing homes within Payson City that are serviced by SESD, but there cannot be new homes in Payson City serviced by SESD.
And the city's probably actively trying to get even the existing ones into the city system.
Yeah.
It just takes time and money.
For instance of that is, if you remember a few months ago, we had the annexation for the RNC annexation. And there were 6 connections there that were on SESD, which the applicant sponsored for the annexation had to pay that exit fee, and then those will have to connect to Payson City. So it does happen. It's just kind of a slow process as it happens.
Okay, so this is a public hearing, so we should open the public hearing.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Commissioner Becker, all in favor by yes?
Yes.
So if you'd like to talk to us about this item, please step to the microphone, give us your name.
Hi,
We know who
Teresa.
you are.
But you still gotta give us your name, because,
You already said it.
yeah, but we might not know yet.
Teresa Hyatt. Payson, Utah. So I've looked at this. And I know you guys saw the plan that we did. You know, we've spent thousands and thousands of dollars doing this plan over what, 3-4 year period. I feel and other people feel that we're going backwards. My biggest fear is they come in and they put 19 wells on that. We don't know if that's going to drain our wells dry, and that's south, east, west, or north. We're probably all on the same aquifer. So back, I think it's been 4 years ago, I was on a committee, a statewide committee for water. And basically, South Utah County, their aquifers are not refilling. And so what we were told at the time is that for all the wells that are out there, there is not enough water. If we were to all use all the water that we have, there's not enough water for the wells that are out there. So how do you go in and put 19 more wells in? So that was one of the things we looked at on our property, is I thought, well, I don't want to make anybody's wells go dry. And so, like, if he wants to look at this, he needs to bring the water out. So he's not drilling 19 wells. And he also needs to bring out the electricity. And yes, he can go back to the county if he wants. And what he was saying, so I divided off of 5 1/4, and I had, like, literally I was told I had to give this much to UDOT because it's on 5,600 and this much to Payson. So my 5 1/4, like, you guys are getting a lot of property, and it's not an easement either. If I sell that, it already comes in to where that road's going to be. It's not an easement. So when you said it's an easement, I don't think that's correct. And yes, and that I could be wrong, but that's what I've been told when I did my 5 1/4 lot plan. You tell me, you guys know better than I do.
Well, future dedication could be possible, right? Right now, we're just listing it as an easement.
See, and I had to dedicate it. If I sell that property, it has to be dedicated. There's no easement. So they still get their 5 1/4, and then you guys get how much ever you want for the road. And so when you show that, I don't know how you can say it's an easement, because it has to be part of the road, which makes it so they're not going to get 5 1/4 acres, which means they're not going to be in Greenbelt.
And that might be true too.
This is something I think you guys need to look at. Because I've had my engineers look at it, because we've looked at 5 1/4 lots and how much we would have to give to UDOT and to Payson City. And it's quite a bit, you know, you're not going to get near the 5 1/4 that you thought you were. So what I'm saying is, if he wants to do this, he needs to bring out the water. This is for everybody. This is for you guys. I thought there would be more people here because everyone needs to be concerned about their wells. I was on this, like I said, I was on this committee and it went 6 or 8 months. And it's pretty scary what is not down there anymore. And so I don't want my well going dry because they're digging 19 or 10, or maybe it's 5. And I don't want Corey's and Kimmy K's. I don't want Maggie's. I don't want anybody south or east. And we don't know. So it's just, these are my concerns. But I would like to find out, because we were not allowed an easement when we did our 5 1/4. We had to dedicate that to the city. So to me, it can't be both ways. Either he has to dedicate to the city or I don't have to. It has to be one or the other. So mine either just has to be an easement or it has to be a dedication. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to make you do more work, but I would like to know, like I said,
This is public comment, so we don't necessarily have to respond.
okay. I would just like you to find out.
Even though you're on the city council.
Yeah, no, because it's right next to mine. I mean, that's the only reason I'm up here. Otherwise I wouldn't be up here, but we need to find that out.
Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you.
And I'll just clarify, Ms. Hyatt is speaking as a neighbor, not in any other capacity. Not in any other capacity.
Sure, you're safe for that side too, so. Everybody else?
Well, that was.
Did you say the applicant was online? I didn't see it.
I-
I didn't see it.
Somebody else was online earlier, but they're gone now.
I didn't see anybody else
Yeah.
besides staff. Did anybody else want to make comments about this proposal? Okay, seeing no additional public comment, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Motion, do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Warner, all in favor by yes? Yes.
So I just want to say something really quickly, that a recommendation can be anything. You know, the applicant is proposing no additional utilities other than electricity, but if planning commission and ultimately city council felt that, you know, water, it had to come, or frankly all of it had to come, if this is what we're going to do, then those would absolutely, you could do that, but it's just the double-edged sword of the number of lots to the utilities that's being connected and things like that. So I just wanted to provide that.
Okay, so discussion on.
I think the well's all right. I mean, it's no different than the city punching in the well up 8 west, where it is up by 8 south, and is that?
At Red Bridge.
Red Bridge, by that development there, I mean, they pull quite a bit of water now from the city. So, I mean, you got 19 lots, and they're only gonna be water and house, 1/4 acre lots, I mean, grass and.
Well, in Greenbelt, they could be irrigating off those wells.
They could
as
be
well.
irrigating
the 5 acres.
Water right, they'll let you do that.
Even in the Greenbelt,
So
so.
the green belt is, all they give you is enough for your household, your animals.
They probably still have strawberry water as well.
Yeah, so we got the strawberry, the water,
That's what they're currently using.
yeah, the streams are, yeah, that's like.
Okay. So, I mean, those are questions I think obviously just need to be researched. I don't say, but somebody who has more knowledge of what water and stuff's out there than I do would be the one to do the study on that. And because obviously we don't want to impact people who are there. And so just the requirement of providing proper documentation and engineering to show that it's feasible without impacting neighboring
Have
properties.
they actually given you proof with the state engineer that's going to issue 19 lots?
Not documentation, which is probably something we can provide.
I personally, I would be surprised if the state engineer issues 19 wells in one area. I'd be very surprised.
But yeah, those are things obviously that have to have answers to before.
Just for my memory, you said north of 2 million to bring water out there.
I'll bet it's more than that.
That was just a quick back of the napkin.
Yeah, but that was a Twinkie wrapper. I'll bet you it's more than that in today's prices.
Because sewer was for that
Well,
stuff.
it's a long ways to water.
Supposed to.
But they have under I-15.
Most water, Red Ridge.
So Scott Phillips has water at the storage units on Utah Avenue.
And that's the closest to-
Why isn't this connecting?
And what about at Red Ridge? Isn't there water there?
There is water there. Going under the railroad would
Yeah,
be
on the
a big
railroad tracks,
challenge.
you get there.
2 crossings, actually.
Yeah, you have to cross the railroad tracks.
Even if we were to approve this, they obviously can't do any development unless they can bring water to the area, right? Or recommend it, we're not approving it, but.
Well, hence the wells is what
Right.
their suggestion is there.
So even if we were to say, yeah, we're good with this, because it does bring it in compliance with the future development. And then if they can't get the water and stuff they need, then their project's dead in the water anyway.
Well, I mean, ultimately, they would have 5 1/4 lots they wouldn't be able to put homes on,
Right.
which significantly reduces the value of those lots, right?
So. Any other discussion?
Well, I'm not a big fan of roadway easements. I don't like them in what I do. I don't like them when I encounter them with land use. I'd rather have the deed, if it's gonna be developed, I'd rather have a deed. That's my most personal opinion. So. I have dealt with too many easements that don't last. They don't
Well,
work.
if part of that was part of the development agreement though too, then I think that gives you a little bit more.
It might
than
give you a
just-
little bit.
Just
of
an
teeth,
easement.
But I still. If it's gonna be a subdivision, it ought to be all standard subdivision.
I mean, you talk about future use of the property, I mean, it's no different than what.
I don't have a problem with the
What's out
internal
there right
easements. I
now.
don't have a problem with the internal
No, that's-
easements.
Yeah.
It's the 3 roads around the outside.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because when them roads come time to put in, somebody can come in and buy that piece of property. You know, it's no different than what I have right now. I mean, that's where I'm at right there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's,
And would UDOT accept an easement versus a dedication? I mean, those are questions that have to be answered,
Probably not.
because UDOT may not even accept an easement, only they may say, no, you have to dedicate this much, but.
Well, and that could significantly alter this,
Is on it.
Make it lose, yeah.
it can significantly alter his plan. Maybe he could only fit 16 lots on there or something like that. But
Well, and that's my contention is that. What are we trying to do here? You know,
So,
yes, we need some control, but we can't give away the farm either.
so if you were to reduce it to less than 5 1/4 acres, he loses greenbelt status, but other than losing that and
Well-
his tax value of the property, the taxable value.
And then he can't do the septic system. Drain field.
Okay, because that's what my question was, is if you were to reduce
The
it
wells
to
and all those
4.5
kind of
acre
things.
lots, would that be something that? And then provide dedications versus easements, but.
Yeah, so that's definitely an alternative. I discussed with them, sent them a map, said, you know what, hey, you might look into doing 4 acre lots and dedicate the roads now. Build our, you know, our small rural road section. And that way, when people come and develop, there's no surprise, right? They have a road, they have, you know, they may have to put in curb and gutter if they further subdivide, but it's very important to the applicant that he keep that greenbelt status. I personally, and as the city engineer, I don't feel it's in our best interest to go with the easements. We need to have the area dedicated upfront. If we are gonna follow our grid network, there also should be 2 east-west roads and 3 north-south roads crossing the entire property, the entire 100 acres. So it's significantly more than what's shown on here, and I'd have to pull up the plan I did for him, but that there's the 5600 is an arterial road. The other two, I believe, are just collector roads, but there's a significant amount of right-of-way dedication around the perimeter on the interior, as you know, and I don't think it's in the city's best interest or in future residents' best interest to have roads as easements as opposed to flat out dedicated, and then they don't have to worry about it in the future.
Appreciate that feedback. It's good. And so, I mean, that would significantly alter, if you have to have greenbelt, that's going to significantly alter even the potential layout of this, because, yeah, you throw in 5 roads, then you're like, how do you get 5 1/4 acre lots at that point?
That's right.
You know, does that make it 6 or 8 or 10 instead of 19? You know, what's
Right.
That's right.
the doability there?
I'm still concerned about setting a precedent. As we talked a little earlier, whatever we do here, the neighbors are gonna look at it, they're gonna want the same concessions, the same things there.
And on the same token, we don't want to stymie development.
Right.
No,
We need to,
but our subdivision ordinances, we follow here as well as everyone else.
and like I said, my personal opinion is I don't have a problem with the interior roads being dedicated this time, at this time as an easement. Because there's not a definite plan on how those are gonna get laid out right now. But the exterior roads, the 3 roads that exist right now, period, they have to be dedicated. in my opinion. And if he's gonna keep 5 1/4, he's gonna lose a lot or two because of that.
So, map at 4. I guess at least 4.
Although that many, the roads, we're not talking, you're not talking thousands of acres.
Right, but still the south lots, if you pull those roads in, then those can't be 5 1/4 feet deep like that, right?
No,
Because- so
but-
that you have to combine 2 of those to make, or, you know, turn that into 3 there instead of 4 or whatever.
Probably
You'd have to reduce 2 there, and then you'd have to
probably
reduce
1 on the bottom,
2 on
and
each
2
side, so
on
I'm
the
thinking
top,
4, yeah,
2 on the top.
so.
You're probably gonna lose 3 lots, would be my guess.
But they use wait till time comes when we develop that. I mean, that's let the landowners develop when the time comes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's totally up to the landowners. If they buy the 5 1/4,
They may
when
never
it
want
comes
it.
time, somebody wants to come in and develop, then that becomes the developer's problem. Into that.
Then it also becomes my problem, because then I have to fight with the developer and say, this is
Yeah.
why you have to do everything that you have to do. When at this point, if he wants to subdivide, he should be held to subdivision standards, like has been said, and that would require the dedication of roadways.
And so then in your opinion, interior and exterior roadways, or more like Commissioner Beecher, just exterior, or you want?
I would
interior
do
dedicated
all
as
of
well?
it, all of it right
My
now.
problem with the interior is they don't know the layout.
Well,
But
that
but
would
that's
be-
something we would require.
Yeah, they would have to lay it
As
out.
part of the
Do
development.
layout, okay.
Layout.
Then I'm okay with, then I understand that, I agree.
So,
I'm glad that you see our
Yeah,
dilemma.
they can change it, but if we had a layout to begin with, that I agree with that.
and this goes back to staff's concern though as well, if we say, well, this is what you've got to do, is the applicant to say, well, let's go back to the county, and then we have no say, so it becomes
But then it becomes annexation. Maybe
During
that annexation says
right.
what you're proposing isn't going to be
Doesn't fit the
possible.
plan at this point.
There's always a yin and a yang.
This is a fun one, so.
Well, I listened to the DRC discussion on this that went on for like 45 minutes. And all of these things were brought up and discussed and beat around and hit over the head and all sorts of things, so.
I mean, I personally don't have a problem with 5 1/4 acre lots.
No.
I don't think that's an issue at all. I think the water definitely have to be very well researched and thought out and engineered to make sure that that wasn't an issue, but then the future plans becomes the major kicker here is.
Sewer's a long ways away. isn't it?
Yeah, And I don't think it's reasonable to require anything other than power, but if we were
Power,
to do it.
power is not a matter of requirement, power is a matter of. it has to be done.
Mandatory, right,
It's mandatory.
but I just, yeah. I guess there's still a lot of unknowns on whether it even makes sense at this point. So I almost think it's hard to make a decision when we have so many unknowns to at least for recommending approval. I have a hard time with that with as many unknowns as we have.
Well, and I would just caveat that by saying, I don't know how much additional information would be available until we know what we're doing moving forward.
Right.
So I know that there's probably a temptation to remand this back to staff but I don't know what additional information we could provide you that we wouldn't be providing to the city council. And
Okay.
this is just my thoughts here, or direction. So if it's leaning towards one way or the other, I would, even if there's a level of uncomfortableness, then we have a recommendation for that, right?
Right.
If we have a level of okay, but there's still things that we are concerned about, because at this point we don't have that development agreement
Right.
at all, right? But some good points have been brought up.
My recommendation to city council would be water would have to be researched prior to accepting it or agreeing upon it. What's the engineers say on water, and is it even possible to put the 19 wells in, or is that doable? Because there's no sense getting into a development agreement when the project can't even happen. And so I think that would have to be addressed. And then the next one is roadways. And I mean, just kind of based on this discussion, I think we'd have to determine how much of that roadway is required. Is it just the interior? And that would have to be agreed upon by the applicant before
What?
accepting and addressing it, well, at least
They
in my
would give an opinion.
thought process.
They would say.
And you could put those things in a recommendation and it'll advance into council either with a positive or negative recommendation.
I mean, as it stands, it's a negative recommendation with some further research and stuff. I think if they were able to meet X, Y, Z, then they can move forward.
We can give a positive recommendation
Following
if
certain conditions.
if these conditions are met.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna come up here and go back on what I just said. Because I checked on some stuff. Talking with the city engineer, we could probably get some additional information for you about the wells.
Then I move that we remand it back to staff for additional water information on the subject property.
I think as you're researching that, discuss the roadway dedication issue with the applicant, and if he's not willing to budge on that, then I think that creates a problem. If there's no willing to budge, that it has to be 19 lots and it has to be 5 1/4, then I would say that just kind of kills the project.
And I'll modify my motion to include that.
Yeah. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. All in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes. And any opposed? Okay. Back to staff.
More beating it around the table, guys.
That's why we love our jobs.
So, all right. Any additional staff reports and or training?
Not right now, but consider, maybe look at your calendars, because the state planning conference will be in September, right? In September, I think it's like the 11th, 10th and 11th, something like that. I'll send you some information on that. If you haven't attended, I encourage you to go, especially our new members. There's a specific day where they provide and kind of gear information towards new planning commission members, and we'd be happy to send you.
And it helps with the required training that we have to take.
That's right.
Good stuff. Which we've got to do some of that, don't we?
We do need to do some of that, and we're probably going to be bringing some training to you about legislation pretty soon.
The conference is great. It brings up things that we don't have to be talking about. efficient, gives you a lot of things to think about, especially when it comes to affordable housing. and
You get to
some
commiserate with a lot of other
these
people.
zoning
as
ordinance
well.
and things like that, so.
I haven't gone to it, but I know that what they have is good information.
So I'll get you some dates and just if you want to go put it on your calendar, we can talk.
Okay.
It will be in Provo this year,
Oh, okay,
so close.
that's nice. Okay, any other items to bring before the commission? Not, final motion,
So moved.
second? Or all in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks, Jonathan.